Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nigel Gaymond. I'm the Chief Executive of the BioIndustry Association. In common with most of these meetings, just a quick housekeeping message. Please to turn off any cell phones so that the speakers are not interrupted. Thanks for being here for this biotech session. I'm, as I said, the CEO of the BIA. That's the trade association here that represents in the UK the bioscience industry. Our membership literally ranges from startups right through to the industry giants like GlaxoSmithKline, Pfizer, Lilly, GE and Takeda. We run about 30 events a year to bring the industry together across the UK, and we represent the industry's interests to a variety of stakeholders such as government on the matters like taxation, regulatory issues, working particularly with Treasury, the Department of Health and the Department of Business. We work with the media, we work with patient groups, research councils and academia, and I think our twin straplines really describe what we're about, which is enabling connections and influencing progress. Next week I'm going to be leading a delegation of companies to India, and it's a fact that our industry is international from day one. And therefore I'm very excited to have been asked by the Hong Kong development guys to chair this session today. And I'm fortunate enough to have spent a lot of my life abroad, most of it in the US, 25 years working over there before I came back last year. I studied languages at university, which took me to Russia at the height of the Cold War in the mid-70s. I studied Swedish, which led me to work in Sweden for 3 summers and become fluent in that language. And over the years, I've also acted as an advisor to both Sweden and, as I do presently, also to New Zealand. The world is changing rapidly, and our own industry is going through an awful lot of change right now. I believe that the UK, which is, if we think about it, the size of New England, is arguably probably the most visited, has had most visited city in the world in London by commercial concerns and investors. I believe that we have the potential and should be one of the premier life science hotspots for life sciences going forward, not least because I think on the present rankings we have in this little country 14 of the top 100 global universities, and not only that, but 8 of the top 50 life science universities, and I think we forget that. And I believe that along with other hotspots such as Boston, San Francisco, San Diego, and so on, that Hong Kong is also going to take its place as one of those hotspots. I'm going to be leading a discussion a little later about, I'm going to be leading a discussion a bit later about the industry and the opportunity that Hong Kong undoubtedly represents, but I think it's important that we set some context. So we're going to have 2 presentations to set that context for us and then hopefully get into some discussion. So firstly, I'd like to invite Mr. Anthony Tam up to the podium.
Thank you, Nigel. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm impressed by all of you sticking with us all day today, starting with early this morning. So I hope that I won't put you to sleep in the next 10 minutes. So you have heard a lot from the different speakers this morning and this afternoon about our science park, about what Hong Kong is doing. And I must say, Hong Kong is not known for its innovation and technology. So I think that to many of you probably something new. But I must tell you that indeed in the past 10 years, we have made some big strides along this area. So what I'd like to do in the next few slides is to really take you through some of the opportunities that we have in Hong Kong in terms of biotechnology companies. And what I'd like to do is maybe start off with looking at what are the opportunities that are available for the Hong Kong today. First of all, you already heard the Hong Kong Shenzhen business model many times already. But this is indeed a very unique model that Hong Kong has, and 1 country, 2 system. And I always say many cities have technology development, but for the case of Hong Kong have Shenzhen right next to it. So we are like a twin city that are working in this area, whereas Singapore does not have a Shenzhen next to it. And on the other hand, Shanghai does not have a Hong Kong next to it. But Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Pearl River Delta has a unique combination where we can leverage the strengths of the both region with its capabilities. And that is really a business model that's very difficult to beat in the world. I'm not going to repeat that because you already know Hong Kong's strengths, and then leveraging the resources of the Pearl River Delta in terms of human resources, the market opportunity, and so on. And then the second opportunities that we have in terms of biotechnology area, obviously, is mainland's healthcare reform agenda. And I'll show you later on the kind of resources that mainland has really invested in this area in the past 10 years. And then the third one is the mainland energy and environmental agenda also. And this, as you heard in the last session, China has committed itself that by year 2020, 15% of its energy will have to come from renewable resources. So with what happened 6 months ago in Japan, in Fukushima, that means that the program along renewable energy has to be accelerated. And many of that renewable energy may have to come from biofuel in order for China to meet its 15% of its energy has to come from renewable sources. And then the other opportunities we have is the world-class research from the Hong Kong universities. In Hong Kong, the last 10, 15 years have recruited some very world-class academics to work in Hong Kong. And as you heard, of the 8 universities that we have in Hong Kong, 6 of them are science-based universities. And out of the 6 of them, 3 of them are always ranked in the top 50 of the world ranking in universities. So in areas of neuro research in the areas of infectious disease, for example, we do have some world-class researcher in this area. So as a result, there are many discoveries coming off the universities in Hong Kong. And at the same time, this university provides you with the intellectual infrastructure to support companies or biotech companies to do research in Hong Kong. And then the fifth area of opportunities is Hong Kong government's commitment or Hong Kong government's intention to build what we call 6 economic pillars. And those 6 economic pillars are as follows, and they are the testing and certification, innovation and technology, environmental industry, educational services, cultural and creative industry, and medical services. So out of these 6 economic pillars, I would say 4 of them will require some sort of biotechnology support or development, like in the testing and certification, innovation and technology, environmental industry, and medical services. So that, therefore, create a lot of opportunity for us. And so all these industry actually require, as you saw in the last session, the 5 technology clusters that our science park focus on, they all are needed to develop these economic pillars for Hong Kong. So Hong Kong advantages, as you have heard from a number of speakers, are well known. Hong Kong is an international business city, a recognized finance and legal system. I'm not going to go into detail of that. Free trade and transparent flow of information, low and simple tax regime, which you have heard. But I'd like to cover the last 2 again, and that is Hong Kong has the capability to attract talents from anywhere in the world to work in Hong Kong. Not only from our universities, where a third of our graduates in our universities are in science and engineering, but today, like for example, you heard Astri CEO discuss that he has now 600 people working in Astri. And I would say a pretty good percentage of that 600 recruits that he had are from basically a diaspora of Chinese from North America and Europe coming back to Hong Kong. In fact, many companies in the science park are started by these returnees. So Hong Kong is an attraction for these talents from around the world to work in Hong Kong. And the other one is, as I mentioned, the Hong Kong Shenzhen or Hong Kong Pearl River Delta business model again. And there we have a unique combination of not only physical infrastructure like transportation, roads, telecommunication, and so on, but also the intellectual infrastructure, because there we can attract the key talents from around the world working with the resources or technical resources for mainland China in terms of engineers, in terms of technicians from anywhere in China going into Shenzhen to work. And there, you really have that intellectual infrastructure again that is hard for other country to beat. And in particular, with Hong Kong's protection of IP, with Hong Kong, the common law system to protect IP and so on, that really give you a safeguard in terms of your IP development. And this chart may look a little bit complicated, but again, it shows you what this chart shows is we have divided China into the different regions in China, and then looking at these regions in terms of their total R&D expenditure, in terms of the total number of people working in R&D, and the total number of domestic patents that are registered. So you look at Hong Kong and the Pearl River Delta area compared to the other regions in China like Shanghai, like Jiangsu province, Zhejiang, and so on, it may surprise you that actually the Hong Kong and the Pearl River Delta area lead in 2 out of the 3 areas that I described. In terms of the R&D expenditures, Hong Kong and the Pearl River Delta region leads the rest of the region in terms of expenditure. In terms of the number of R&D personnel or technical personnel involved in research or applied research and development area, Hong Kong again lead the rest of the country in terms of the number of people working in that area. And then the number of domestic patents is the only area where Hong Kong is number 2 rather than number 1. And Hong Kong is behind Jiangsu province in that area. So Hong Kong has the resources to help companies do applied research or translational research. So again, the opportunity in biotech as shown in the following graph, which plot the healthcare industry growth in the past 10 years, and is spectacular. It has a cumulative annual growth rate of 22% in the past 10 years. And this is really spectacular. And obviously, most of the growth happened in the last 5 years. And then the reason for this growth is because of China's commitment to universal health insurance coverage by 2020. And in fact, they're targeting that at least 90% of the people in China will have some form of health insurance coverage by the end of this year. And this is really an aggressive goal. And then obviously also committed to building community medical centers and hospitals, more subsidies for state-owned hospitals, focus on prevention and early detection, establish national essential drug lists, and so on. So in fact, what China have done is over the past 3 years have invested over 850 billion RMB, or about 70 billion pounds in the healthcare area in the past 3 years. So from the Science Park standpoint, we support the biotech in a very focused way. You have heard my chairman discuss that we have an incubation program on biotech, which is 4 years, where we provide financial support and also business guidance, mentorship, and promotion, and all those things. And in addition, in our phase 2, we have built 2 biotech buildings specifically dedicated to biotech research with wet lab facilities. And then we have also equipped common use laboratories, in particular to support small and medium-sized enterprises to help them start their research without the high entry barrier of investing in equipment initially. And then again, Hong Kong is a unique place for biotechnology to benefit from the Hong Kong Pearl River Delta business model. You heard about the SIPA discussion. So and that is another advantage that the biotech company in Hong Kong will have. Any products that are produced in Hong Kong can be imported into China tariff-free, okay? So that is also a big advantage for company that set up their biotech company in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong Science Park is a gateway, or rather use the word maybe springboard to the China market. Because Hong Kong can be used as a platform for the aspiration, not only for the China market, but also for the region of Asia as a whole. The one country, two system is unique, where you can use Hong Kong as an IP hub, and then the PRD as a recognized center for value-add manufacturing and so on. And then also our park provide integrated and comprehensive services covering R&D, product development, production, and access to market. And one very important element that we provide are business matching. In other words, I help you identify business partner, help you also experiment with different business modeling, for example, in developing the China market. So the Pearl River Delta that I talk about is really the area surrounding Hong Kong. Hong Kong is down here, and then the cities surrounding Hong Kong here. Hong Kong has a population of 7 million, Shenzhen 11 million, but the Pearl River Delta with the other cities have a total population of about 55 million. So similar, basically similar to the population of the UK. But as you heard from the previous speakers, we have transportation to the other region. Within 2 hours of the high-speed train, you really cover a region of about 100 million population. Within 5 hours, probably about 300 million population of China. So that really gives you direct access to a pretty huge market in China. And then a few examples of some of the companies that are using the Hong Kong Pearl River Delta model. You may have heard the company called Beijing Genomics, which is the largest genome sequencing company in the world. And they have already set up facilities in Hong Kong. And in fact, they are aiming for that facility to become the world's largest sequencing center in the world, serving region outside of China. And then the headquarters of BGI is in Shenzhen. So this is a kind of reverse flow, as the chairman has described. Then another company is a Hong Kong listed company called Lee's Pharmaceutical, where they have really, again, using Hong Kong as their R&D center, and then the production and clinical trial are in the Pearl River Delta area in China. And then, in fact, this pharmaceutical have licensed a technology from Oxford University called Powder Jet, which is a drug delivery system that they are now commercializing. So I think these are the companies, again, using the Pearl River Delta model. And another company that are doing this is the therapeutic antibodies company, basically on a couple of drugs that they're aiming for cancer diseases. And this company, again, using their basic research is in the Hong Kong Science Park, and then their pilot plant facilities and their clinical trial are in China. So that gives you a quick overview of our activities in the Science Park. And today, we have about 49 companies, biotech companies, in the Science Park today, and cover a wide range of area, from therapeutics to biologics to food development to also medical devices. And so we are aiming to continue to grow this area. And in our phase 3 development, we are focusing on two areas, green technologies and biotechnology. So that is a quick overview of the biotech, Nigel. So I'll be glad to answer questions later on.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thanks the organizer for inviting me to come over here. To tell you a small story about myself, but as many biotech entrepreneurs, we often wear a few hats. So I myself a scientist. Right now I'm in Peking University. Before I was in Stanford, UCSF, and then I decided to come back to Hong Kong and work in Hong Kong Science and Technology. And that happened to be one of the top universities in Asia. I just know about that. And then at the same time, I believe that we can do biotech in Hong Kong, and that's why I opened a company. Through this meeting, I was reassured that why I have done is correct. Okay, because looking at this beautiful harbor over here, this is no stranger to you, right? It happened to be with all the infrastructure that we have built in the last 50 years, say, okay? under the British government, and at the same time, right now, in the last 10 years by ourselves, Hong Kong people. We built a beautiful infrastructure over there. As you can see that the law system, many things that they have mentioned and Tony has mentioned already. But under here, Hong Kong people have a lot of dreams. And it happened to be the dream will come true, especially for people that work in life science. Now, I'll tell you why. But no, all the slides, no, I'm not going to go through it again because I can see that you probably saw it so many times already. But what I really want to bring out to you is that in Hong Kong, biotech related company are quite a few of them. Over 300 of them, they work in healthcare, Chinese medicine, medicinal device and diagnostics. And then we have 70 companies that are listed in Hong Kong Stock Exchange market, but they are doing something related to biotech. Okay. So we have 9 tertiary institutions and 6 heavily engaged in biotech-related research. And then we publish over 250 high-impact life science papers a year. So we have 2 beautiful and world-class medical schools in Hong Kong, and they're very helpful in doing clinical trials in Hong Kong, etc. Okay, not to mention about, you already know about the funding in Hong Kong is pretty good from the government. And then probably you don't know about Hong Kong, they've been recognized in many biotech sectors. Now, for example, now we happen to have the bird flu in 1997, right? And then it happened to be, we are very good in the research over there. And then SARS, etc. So we have a very strong research group in infectious disease. And then we have doing all kind of genetic modified organism, especially the detection of it. We're doing a lot. So we have a whole list of things that we are doing related to biotech. And then talking about China, okay, we also know about the Canton stuff and etc. But this is a good place to do clinical trial. Okay, you may be worried about the system over there, but we know the system really well. So Hong Kong people will know how to work through the system to get beautiful clinical trial done in China. And not to mention about there's a lot of beautiful enterprises. They are really form of biotech, high-tech related business. So this is, through Hong Kong, we can easily talk to them and get funding from them. And then all the others, I'm not going to go through it in details because you heard a lot about it, okay? But something new is that we have 12 state key laboratory located in Hong Kong. This key laboratories is related to the major research institution in China. And this is another bridge between the science work between Hong Kong and China. And then another thing is that you really have to read this 12 5-year plan. It happened to have English version, okay? You can get it from the internet. But the story I really want to tell you is something that the whole world's waiting for this, what we call gene chips, okay? Ever since we started the human genome, we know that we have a whole bunch of information coming out. Well, what we can use it for is using a gene chip that we can use this information for health diagnosis related matters. But unfortunately, this happened to be in the mid-90s, the last century. But up to today, we don't have a chip that can be working in our clinical setting. Okay? Now, I have a list of companies like Affymetrix, and we have 2 big companies in China, and Nanogen, Motorola. They all know that gene chips will be one big solution for clinical diagnosis. And then they know that the market is huge. But unfortunately, up to today, not a single product was being established. So we cannot use this technology. Like Affymetrix, they have something very, very sophisticated, high density glass slide-based microarray, but they are very good for research, but proven to be not quite correct for a clinical setting. And then the 2 companies in China, they also want to create gene chips. Unfortunately, they end up doing microarray and then doing some business, distributor for Affymetrix in China. Nanogen is one of the closest to get into clinical chips. But unfortunately, they're using electric current-based system, and now the company kind of sold to somebody and then closed down in 2009 on the chips development because the technology they're using is not quite right. No, end up the chips is not going into commercialization. Motorola, they also understand the importance of these chips. Unfortunately, they also fail. What we're dreaming about is that nowadays when you go to the doctors, the doctor take your sample and then send it to the lab, and then they ask you to come back in a few days, see what you have. A few days, if you have infection, I think it would be very dangerous, especially for young children like meningitis. Wait for 3 days before you get the right treatment. It's quite dangerous. Now, what we're really dreaming of is that the patient go to the doctor and the doctor get a sample from you. By the time you see the doctor, they know the result, what you have. Okay, that's ideal. But how can we do that? Now, actually, we have this interview from Science in June 24th this year. They said, lab on a chip system, make Hong Kong onto the biotech map. Okay, if you are interested in reading this article, you can go to Science. Now, how do we do that? Okay, actually, what we have done is we create a chip called EFET chip. EFET chips means, E means electric field assisted diagnostic chips. These chips is wonderful, okay? Because we spent 10 years on this because we are quite sure what we're doing. First of all, we know that the bottleneck for this whole story is that it takes too long for the DNA and DNA find each other. The hybridization process takes at least 6 to overnight for incubation to get a signal. And that is why it takes so long. But now we have a technology, what we call electric field assisted diagnostic. We can speed up this hybridization into 5 minutes. Okay, and this technology is being patented. And then we have the capability to do multiplex. That means we can put about 300 target on one chips. The chips is this size over here. See the yellow stuff over here? This is the whole chips, but the platform is like this size. Okay, and then the chips is scalable and cost effective. And this is a worldwide patent. This is a platform that we create, okay? And the wafer over here is also decided by us that the DNA can be attached onto it. And then we have the spotter, and this is the cartridge that houses the whole reactor. So it means all the reactions are being performed inside this cartridge over there. And then you put the chips into this machine, and then within 1 hour, you know what you have. Okay, the doctor will get a report, and this is the chips surface, but the doctor wouldn't see this chips, this picture over here. They only get a result to say what you have. Okay, and it's very efficient. Now this platform composed of technology with molecular biology, microelectronic, material science, optics, bioinformatics, and precision engineering. How can a life scientist to perform all this, to put all this technology into one platform in Hong Kong? This is not easy, but we have a beautiful infrastructure. Tell you the truth, we didn't go anywhere else. We do everything. We did everything in Hong Kong. We utilized what Hong Kong provided us. Now we have this Hong Kong Science and Technology Park Corporation. Okay, in there you have the technology, you have many different the scientists from all different disciplines. Okay, and then we use S3. They have the photonic and etc. And then we use the Hong Kong PC Productivity Council to help us to design the chips, the cartridge, etc. And then create the mold. So if you really know how to utilize the infrastructure that we provided in Hong Kong, things can happen. Okay, we have done it in Hong Kong. So at the same time, we have a lab in Hong Kong, but in Hong Kong you can utilize the talents in China. So our company also have a lab in Beijing. This is lab in Beijing. That some of the work, and especially in the future for the clinical trial, all this will be performed in China. Okay, and this is something that something like this. And then we already have 30 enforceable patents for this platform. Okay, and then we have another 42 or 43 pending. And all this pattern are created locally in Hong Kong, okay? And then this pattern protect this, system all over the world. So talking about Hong Kong, now we are all ready to get this whole platform being manufactured in Guangdong, okay? But no, it's very close. Within 2 hours, you can go anywhere in Guangdong. And then they have beautiful manufacturing facility over there. And then another thing is that if you look back over here, you can see that within 2-3 hours, basically in Hong Kong, you can reach all the technology center in Southeast Asia. So this machine over here, we designed everything, but it's being manufactured by a Japanese company called PSS. They manufacture all kind of machine for Roche, etc. And they are willing to manufacture the prototype for us. We will get 20 of this machine for our clinical trial within a few months. And this wafer is being produced by a company in Taiwan, and they're very good at it, okay? But the chips is a little bit different. They're willing to get the way out to produce the chips that, the wafer that we really need. So in that case, it's just indicated that Hong Kong is not only the door or the gate to go in and out of China. We have access to all the technology in Southeast Asia within 3 hours of flight, okay? And that's something that will be very good for a biotech company to be landed in Hong Kong. And then just think about another aspect. Our platform technology are ready to hit the China market in a year. Okay, if you look at how many places that will be able to use my machine, okay, just look at that. The total health-related institute, we have 936,000 of them, okay? And then not to mention about all this village health room, because our machine is very robotic, very user-friendly, and very cost-effective, okay? So, and then another thing, China is not our only market. As you know, that BioTech is a global business, okay? China market only account for about 20% of the global market. But Hong Kong is no stranger to all foreign pharmaceutical company or health-related organization. For example, just my company was being visited by IAFP executive directors and Thailand Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperation, and even United Nations, FAO, etc. So we have people coming to Hong Kong all the time, and they know what we are doing. Now even Roche, the vice president, came over to our company and looked at our research, etc. So Hong Kong is a place not only just for China market, but probably the only place for you to go into China to make your life easier, okay? But it also remains to be international. So this is what we have done. So look at this beautiful place again. It has a beautiful lifestyle, very easy to live in, right? You have basically everything. But in the future, I think Hong Kong going to be the biotech hub in Asia, okay? Because we have a huge market behind us. At the same time, we get access to everywhere in the world, okay? So again, I'm from Hong Kong Biotech Organization. Now, if you have anything related to biotech, you're welcome to contact us.
I thought we'd perhaps start off by having Jeremy perhaps give some perspectives. And maybe, Jeremy, you could just start off by telling us a little bit about our aircraft medical, but also then perhaps offer some initial perspectives that you have of sort of life as you've experienced it in Hong Kong.
Indeed. Hi, everybody. Aircraft Medical is a devices company, predominantly in anesthesia. We are based up in Scotland, which, as some of you will know, is the end of the world if you're trying to get anywhere, but that's as may be. When we started the company, we made the decision, because we were a very young company trying to figure out what we were doing, that we were going to source locally here in the UK, and we were going to manufacture here in the UK. And it was a fantastic theory, because in 3 hours, 4 hours, we could be with any of our suppliers, with any of our contractors. Over a number of years, that's become more and more difficult. The number of providers that are out there have greatly reduced. The quality of the providers has greatly reduced. And the amount of risk and willingness to do business of those providers has greatly reduced. As an operations director, I'm very much about, I want to get things done. Someone will say this needs done. It's like, right, I'm going to try and do it in as quick a way as possible. So I made the decision to go out and look at the great Southeast Asia without really knowing anything about it at all. I've done a little bit of work in Taiwan before, so I rocked up in Taiwan with no contacts, had done some web searches, and did okay. Found some suppliers, and it was relatively easy to do business. But on the way back, I happened to stop over in Hong Kong, and I went and visited SDI, which is Scottish Development International. It's very similar to BIA, UK Trade and Industry, things like this. And within one meeting, I was given a list of about 15 people to contact the next time I came by. And the next time I came by, I had literally sent an email to all 15 of these people, said, right, Monday morning, 8 till 10, I'm rocking up at your door. And the next one, 11 till 1, I'm rocking up at your door. And I'd been given a list of CEOs of some small companies, some very large companies, and every single person came to see me. Accepted to see me. And what I found was that I was immediately, within 3 days of meetings, I was absolutely tied in to the infrastructure of Hong Kong. And the nice thing about it was that even if during that meeting it was a case of, well, we really can't help you, it was always a case of, but we know a man who can. So this was very useful. And so on my next trip out, it was a little bit longer, maybe 10 days, spent some time up in Shenzhen, going and visiting some of these factories of these contacts. And the big thing I found there was that I was staggered by the quality of the organizations that I was going to look at, the fact that their facilities were so well vertically integrated. The other great thing is, of course, BioTech. We are regulated to the hilt, but if I talk to them about CGMP, no problem. If I talk to them about 13485, no problem. If I talk to them about 10993, no problem. Because they've been servicing all of these multinational, all of these countries all over the world, they were very familiar with all of these procedures. They were very, very familiar with all of these regulations. And I think that's the big thing. So originally I went looking at a supply chain. And what's actually developed over a period of time is that begun to look at the region not only as a means to a supply chain, but also as a means to do R&D out there. For instance, where we have volume products, it's very difficult to get hold of volume engineering and experienced engineers in this country anymore. So that experience is out there. Academia, science and technology is still treasured out there, which it isn't particularly here, so I've become a great fan of that. And yes, besides being a lovely place, you didn't mention the food's good, and as a fat boy, that I appreciate that. And then there's that other thing though, it's that I go out there, and I go fairly regularly, every 8 to 10 weeks, something like that. But to go out there, it's cheaper than if my wife wants to go and see her parents in Orlando in Florida. Now, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to Orlando, or do I want to go to Hong Kong? And then once I'm there, I can fit in 4 good meetings in a day. I can fit in 3 factory visits in a day. So just as a means to get things done, pretty much everything I need is right there. And the quality of the establishment and the choice of the establishments, I've been really, really impressed with. I have no reason to sit here and sell anything that these guys are saying. I'm utterly independent of these guys. If I decide to join the science park, the fact I'm here means we can bargain a little harder, I think, on the rent. But it is, as a devices guy for 25 years and as an engineer originally, it has really, in the last 18 months, it has really rekindled the excitement of going out there, starting companies, growing companies, bringing new products to market. So it really is a case. If you haven't been yet, I suspect many of you have, but if you haven't been yet, find out your local UK trade and industry contact who will be out there, and then go there. Don't go to Orlando. Orlando sucks. Go to Hong Kong instead.
Can we just expand on that a bit and sort of just one area that, you know, anybody that sort of hasn't had an involvement in China that may be a concern for people is how to come to terms with a different business culture. And I guess from your perspective, how did you find that? But also from the two gentlemen next to me, sort of how that culture, that business culture, will differ between Hong Kong and mainland China and as well, because clearly that is one of the thrusts, as it should be, of how you sell Hong Kong as a stepping stone to China. So from your,
Shall I go first on that one? I have had quite a lot of dealings with China, with distributors, and lovely people. I've also dealt with the SFDA, the Chinese Food and Drug Administration, directly. Interesting people. And there is definitely a significant cultural difference to how we're trying to do business and how they're trying to do business. And what I have found is that by using Hong Kong as that intermediary, then I think many of the people who work and live in Hong Kong, they understand both sides of the coin, as it were, and they're able to translate between those two very well, and also recommend ways to go about problems. I'm reasonably direct, which isn't always the best way in China, and they'll say, well, Jeremy, no, if you go around the door, then you don't have to bust through it and cause upset with the broken hinges. You know, it's that sort of thing.
And gentlemen, on the difference between mainland China and yourselves.
But obviously there is, even though we are all Chinese, but the way that we're brought up are different. So as a result, there's a cultural difference in terms of one very simple example is property rights concept. So, you know, the property right concept from China is different from a property right from outside, because again, being coming out of a socialist system, property belongs to the people, and so that's why there's some understanding there that people need to know. But on the other hand, Hong Kong, you know, over the last since the mid-70s, since the opening of China, has always been the first group of people really go in and invested in China, the first and for OEM and so on. So really, Guangdong area and Hong Kong people are the first group to really start the economic development of China. So with that history and with that understanding, I think there is a good understanding of how to operate in China, how the system works, and how to really work within the system to get things done, and at the same time have the transparency and the standard that is expected of you know, under an basically a open system. So maybe Albert, you have more comments on that.
Well, I personally work in right now in Peking University as a full-time professor over there. So I taught students in Hong Kong when I was in Hong Kong Science and Technology. But at the same time now, I'm working in Peking University. I'm running a company in Hong Kong and a company in Beijing, okay? And I have to tell you that I'm learning. I'm still learning. How about you? If you go into China, you probably get surprises every day, okay? But there's nothing wrong, to learn the surprises, every day, but you are doing a business. You don't want surprises every day. So we have experience for the past 20-some years, on how to deal with Chinese. officials, the business, how they run. It takes time to learn. Okay, even nowadays when I'm teaching in Peking University, I found not just the businessmen, even the academics, they're so different. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with the difference, but you just have to learn it. So you have to learn from the people they have experience. Now I say that not because I was born in Hong Kong, but I educated in America. But when I came back to Hong Kong, I spent about 10 years to learn how to become a Chinese in China. Okay, and then now I'm working in China, and I learn much more. Okay, so running a biotech company in Beijing, at the same time in Hong Kong, I would know what to do, what part of the research will be done in Hong Kong, and which part of the research will be done in China. Okay, and that is also a technique that you have to learn, or you will get surprises too. So, and I hope I get the message across. So if you're stationed in Hong Kong, people will, you will have a lot of people will help you to take care of all this surprises, and you can learn it slowly, but you still would do a lot of good things in China. Okay.
I know there's some friendly faces here who I recognize in the audience, so be warned, I'll probably come and ply you for a couple of questions in a minute. But one thing I wanted to just comment on before I move on to the next subject is I have a very good friend of mine who runs a diagnostic company actually based in Maryland, but with Hong Kong roots. He's an American. But a very worldly American. And one of the things that he comments on from an opportunistic point of view is that as an American, he sees the real opportunity at the moment, funnily enough, in two places is where he would like to be based. One is Hong Kong, and the actual other one is the UK, for the same reasons in terms of some of the scientific pedigree of the two communities, the money that's available, etc. When I asked him point blank, so sort of what is it that, can you sort of put it into sort of simple words, what is it about Hong Kong that you find so energizing? It was actually interesting to hear an American say a can-do spirit, which tends to suggest that you're right at the pioneering stage, you know, that sort of nothing can not be done. Fantastic science. If he was to sort of point out sort of one potential weakness that sort of wasn't there at the moment, I guess it would probably be sort of on the venture financing side at the moment. So perhaps we could just, and I know, Charles, you're here from a VC fund here in London, and I'm just interested in, from your perspective, whilst I believe that there is plenty of sort of family money and angel capital and so on available that is willing to invest in this area, do you feel this is something that you're going to have to tackle over the next 5 years and look for ways to try to encourage a sort of more of a venture funding vehicle in your community?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a challenge because everyone knows that Hong Kong is a financial center. It's not a center for lack of money. But the challenge is that there are too many opportunities in Hong Kong. And therefore, investment a lot of times are focused on short-term returns. And for long-term, like in particular biotech and technology, is not something that I must say a lot of Hong Kong investors are familiar with. They're looking at, you know, pretty fast return in a year, 2 years. And when you start talking about 3 or 4 years, their eyes just glass over. So I think it's a challenge. But on the other hand, I think, with a few economic downturns in the last 6-7 years, in addition, I must say that there is a group of, I would say, Hong Kong entrepreneurs that over the past 30 years have made their fortune in OEM. And they might be a group of potential VC or angel investor because, again, as we get older, people live longer, and people even don't want to retire. They don't want to completely retire. So these are the group of people that we're hoping to try to convince or try to show the light of the interest of investing in technology and in biotechnology. But it is a challenge. Hong Kong is not for lack of money. Hong Kong, a lot of what they call VC in Hong Kong, but when you look deeper into it, a lot of them are private equity rather than VC. So it is a challenge that we have, but the challenge is because Hong Kong has too many short-term opportunities. Yeah.
Anything anyone else would want to add before I move on? I was struck last night talking to Ka Ming, who presented in the last thing, and he was a guy who's come back from UMass Amherst.
Right.
Stephen, you came back from the States as well. Have you seen, I mean, they talk about the phenomenon of all the returning turtles, I think is the expression in China. Has that been
China,
true in Hong Kong?
Hong Kong is not called turtle.
No.
Only China is called turtle. Because that the way in Mandarin
Yeah.
is hai gui is translated into turtle.
Yeah. Have you seen the same phenomenon of people returning back to Hong Kong who may have sort of gone abroad and so on?
Oh, that's what I
Because of
was
the opportunity?
referring to. Like, for example, Dr. Nim Jiang was, S3 CEO was talking about. Out of the 600 people that he has, I'm guessing at least close to maybe 20%, 15-20%, basically the either Hong Kong Chinese or Taiwanese or mainland Chinese that went abroad to study, stay, and work, and then coming back to start company. And in the park today, I would say that we have quite a few examples. One is a returnee that started a IC design companies. Then in 6 years grew his company into probably a 700 million Hong Kong dollars company. And so I would say that there's quite a few returnees because Hong Kong is an attractive place for Asians to come back to live.
No.
Albert is another example.
Yeah, I'm one of the
I myself also started in the U.S. and working for a multinational, came back to Hong Kong. So quite a few examples in that area. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Yes.
Just Anthony, when you mentioned the possibility of business angels, obviously the issue of business angels is getting access to them, and sort of other formal networks of business angels that organize meetings or presentations and that kind of thing in Hong Kong.
Yeah, actually, we took the initiative, as I said. We look at this as really a big gap. So as a science park, we have about a year and a half ago worked with the universities to establish angel network called the Hong Kong Bond. And that we have established that now, the Hong Kong Business Angel Network called Hong Kong Bond. And so we now have meetings every 2 months. We have recruited probably over 60, almost 70 interested individuals. And as I mentioned before, we're targeting that group of semi-retired entrepreneur that has made their fortune in OEM, and to try to get them interested in, investing a little bit and then have a number of slaves working for you. so they get interested in something like that. So we're starting that, and we're having that every 2 months or so, have business matching and try to encourage them to form into a group of angels rather than individuals and so on. So learning from the Silicon Valley and other places. So it's starting that, yeah.
Charles.
Yeah, just picking up on your points, Nigel, from earlier about the lack of VC funding in Hong Kong. When you've got companies on the science park who've effectively exhausted angel funding and they need to raise more money and they're below the radar screens of something like a private equity group, how do you go about financing those companies? Where do you go? If there's no local VC, how do you raise the money? What is your strategy for the long-term development and financing of these companies on the science park?
Well, I must say it's still families and friends, the angel. But in terms of family and friends, I think some of these individuals have pretty, rich families and friends. And like, for example, the person that I talked about that started that IC design company, he happened to have come from a relatively rich family that are, bake in bakery, and you heard about somebody mention a mooncake in Sipper, and he's one of those companies that produce a lot of mooncakes. So his family has some money to invest. So, but it's a challenge. But as you said, we are in the initial stage of developing this technology. So some of these still can take care of itself. But as we go forward, without a real VC, you can never find the next, not Google. I mean, Google is too much of a dream. But even the next 1010 or next whatever, a substantial company. So it's something that we are trying to interest some of the VC from the US or others. But they are, in today's economy, they start looking outside. So hopefully, but again, we have to convince them not only in China, but Hong Kong also. Hong Kong is part of China. Today, they all go to Shanghai directly, forgetting about Hong Kong. So we need to try to attract them to Hong Kong.
So, I mean,
Also.
Charles, as a venture capitalist yourself, do you believe that VCs will start to look for specific parts of the world instead of just being local? Maybe start to be to actually look for preferred places where they may look to invest or co-invest with other groups?
There's no clear cut policy for that. No, but I remember a group of lawyers, they deal with IP issue, went to Beijing and started talking to the government officials. Okay, so this is one issue that we are talking to them. But as a Hong Kong company, I have no problem with that. For some reason, because I can have a company, they can use my patent in China, or I can still have my Chinese company to use whatever I have inside to do whatever I have to do in Hong Kong. Okay, there's no conflict in that particular part. But if I want to use it, if I have a patent in China, okay, and if I want to use it in another country, I may get into a little bit trouble. Okay, but over here, as I mentioned to you, that all the patents are being applied in Hong Kong. It's a Hong Kong-based company. They apply all the patents. So I do not come into that kind of problem because I foresee that. I'd rather not to do that. But a lot of people are talking about this issue right now with Chinese government, see whether they can ease on this regulation.
Yeah, and there seems to be an understanding that in order to get the best commercial return from their IP, it has to be exploited in developed markets of Europe and the US. It's just, you can't do it.
Yes.
Yes, Professor Yu, you mentioned the product will carry out the clinical trial. I don't think the regulatory approval you seek from Hong Kong, relevant authority or from SFDA.
No, we have to do it in FSDA too. Okay.
SFDA.
Yeah, and then we're going to do it in the FDA, right? In America, and then we'll do it in Europe too. Yeah, all will be carried out at the same time. Huh?
Will carry out in China.
Yeah, now my Chinese laboratory will take care of that part.
Yeah.
Okay, my Hong Kong laboratory will take care of the rest, the
So
international
it's more
part.
like a multi-center.
Yeah, you have to. No, because something like this, we are talking about a global market. It's not just local.
Yeah.
So it's a global market. Yeah.
So my question is, if you get approval of the market from the SFDA, whether it's automatically, can access the Hong Kong market, or you have to.
Now, Hong Kong market, it's very easy on this kind of issue, especially on medical device. Okay, and we do not have some kind of approval process, and if we have something, it will be very simple, very straightforward. Yeah, and then another thing is that we are talking about some of the clinical trial that you perform in Hong Kong. Maybe the data may be usable in China too. Yeah, so they have regulation. It's very straightforward.
Yeah, just to supplement for clinical trials, for therapeutics, for drugs and so on. Hong Kong, the two teaching hospitals plus the eye hospital in Hong Kong are basically recognized by SFDA in doing clinical trials for applications that are initiated by SFDA. They can, run their clinical trials in Hong Kong is accepted. Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning as well that the FDA are generally pretty accepting of clinical data out of Hong Kong as well, whereas clinical data out of mainland China, they tend to look a little more askance on.
Just going back to finance, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is how strong would you say it is from say, an IPO opportunity for technology companies, or could it be an interesting exit potentially for investors to be attracted to Hong Kong as a venue?
Yeah, but the Hong Kong Stock Exchange have a growth stock, also the one that easier to be listed. Is a potential, but again, I think today you is not as active as actually the Shenzhen growth stock market, because again, it's because of listing, the ease of being listed. So I think that's an area that obviously the government and the different people have brought it up with the Hong Kong government. We should be looking at that and how to, look at revitalize that growth stock market to help some of these companies to monetize themselves. Yeah.
Robert, can I put you on the spot a bit as somebody who's been operating and doing things in China for many, many years? And I remember our conversation back in Boston where the whole journey started because of access to Chinese medicine in a Boston back street. Anything that's resonating with you, or how much have you had to do mostly with mainland China, or have you had any interactions in Hong Kong?
Both. I think the key issue is the one that you're talking about now, which is how to fund it, because there is a fantastic science base in Hong Kong. Everybody's known that for years and years and years, but there's a lack of funding, and it is because of the short-term view on investment in Hong Kong, and solving that is going to be the key to turning Hong Kong into the biotech hub. And it is, what I've been hearing today is very, hopeful, and it seems to me, I went to the science park many years ago when it first started, and it seems that it's going, and I've still got friends there, and I was there last spring, actually, and it seems that it is really growing, but it is this idea of funding, and like the stock market, the rules in Hong Kong are not set up for a life science company. So that they really need to emulate, and actually it's not such a great environment in this country either, but it needs to emulate more of the US, where there is a culture of investing in life science and people actually making money.
Yeah, for your information, now we do have a group of people. Now, our biotech company coming from Hawaii this month, they are looking for funding. And then in November, there will be another group of biotech company from the west coast of US will come to Hong Kong. And we have all this matching investor and something like that. So the US company are starting to come to Hong Kong to look for opportunity and go into China.
Yeah, I've heard some similar stories of US companies going down to Australia, which has been hot as a pistol for the last couple of years on the strength of deals. So one, that gives me hope that actually if you get a bit of sizzle in the marketplace, it can be flipped around even in the UK here. But two, it tells me that people are more willing now to go and expand their horizons when they're actually looking for capital, and actually just always looking in your domestic territory isn't the smart choice anymore, because I think there are lots of opportunities around the world if you're prepared to get on a plane.
You mentioned Shenzhen, and I'm interested to hear about that, because do you think there is an opportunity to somehow take companies from Hong Kong and list them in Shenzhen, because that's...
Actually, what I was saying was that the Shenzhen market was actually very, very active because of a lot of listings from especially companies from around the Beijing area, the IT type companies. What I'm saying also, we have to really look at our growth market exchange in Hong Kong and see how, rather listing in Shenzhen is trying to get more listed in Hong Kong.
When we were there about three or 4 years ago, they said that they did a consultation.
The GEM,
And everybody said, make it more like NASDAQ, lower the bar.
Right.
You don't have to have 3 years profitable trading, whatever.
Right.
But then they said the exchange, when they got all the sponsors back, they said we're going to ignore all that and we're going to raise the bar. We're going to basically say you've got to have 3 years profitable trading.
Because
3 years ago, so maybe that's changed a bit.
Because again, business was so good on the regular exchange. You heard about almost 300 some listing just on the Hong Kong exchange itself, big companies. because so many mainland companies, so they are so busy on that part, neglecting about this little part, and that's why people are making some noises. We got to look at that.
Yeah, Albert, I remember we were talking this morning, and I was struck by a lot of attention on Singapore over the last 10 years in terms of sort of some of the things that they've been developing and so on. But you've made some interesting comments about how you differentiated Singapore to sort of the Hong Kong. Is there anything you'd sort of like to talk about there, because Singapore's put a huge emphasis on building infrastructure, but you talked about some critical advantages that Hong Kong you felt had.
That's only for private conversation. Because I don't think if I say something, the Singaporean doesn't want me to go there anymore. No, a few years ago they did even ask me to move my company over there because they are very aggressive on getting some good project, biotech project in Singapore. But unfortunately, I turned them down. The reason is that I don't see I can get my company do well over there because they're short of talent and that is far away from everything that I believe that will help me to get my company going. Okay, and of course, Hong Kong has China as a back garden. You can go there and get a lot of resources. And then when you do biotech, you talk about potentials. So you have to look at the surroundings. I look at Hong Kong has all the surrounding and the environment that I need. And of course, I know Hong Kong really well. Myself, I was born over there. But still, when you're doing business, you have to be very practical. You have to analyze all aspects. Now, Singapore, you get the first funding from the government. What happens if you spend them all? Okay, and that's why there's a lot of big company move over to Singapore, but end up they move out afterward. After they spend all the money. Okay, so it's very unfortunate. I think the government really determined to get something good done over there, but for a biotech entrepreneur, okay, talk about business, it's a little bit harder. Okay, it doesn't have all the ingredients that we need for biotech. It's my personal point of view. That's why I decided not to go over there. I turned down the offer myself.
And I apologize if I have put you on the spot, but actually, I mean, it does, for me, it is a common sense principle that you do have mainland China right on your doorstep, and that is a huge opportunity for your location.
Another thing is the talent part. They have pretty good university over there, but all the students, most of the students they work in there are from China. Okay, and many of them will move out afterward. So they also lack of talent too. Yeah. And other than that, I think the government is working very hard, putting up all the policy, trying to create this biotech thing over in Singapore. But unfortunately, geographically, and its surrounding doesn't support it.
Yeah.
So personally, I will not move over there because it takes another 4 hours to go anywhere you want. so that's the reason why.
I think I'll leave a last comment to you, Jeremy, just as someone who's clearly travelled around Asia and so on. Does it simply come back to that prevailing attitude that you found and how receptive it was in Hong Kong that differentiated it from other parts of Asia?
For me, yes. There are, in other parts of Asia, there are many of the same skill sets, many of the same sorts of companies. It is that much more difficult to extract them. And I do think that, especially being from the UK, the speed of access to all of these facilities, but just the number of them as well. It's extraordinary within, as you say, within just a short trip. We have requirements that range from injection molding to aseptic fill, and within 2 hours, I can travel to 5 different companies that does one, 10 different companies that does another. So as a small growing company, the big resource you never have is time. So it's ideal.
Yeah. And I would say, just in conclusion, I mean, even just what I knew beforehand, what I've learned today, I would defy anyone in this room and in the other rooms during the day to walk away and not have Hong Kong indelibly etched in your brain right now as somewhere that has to be on your radar screen because of China, but also because of the sheer opportunity it represents as a really great friend on the other side of the world. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you
very
everyone.
much.